The junkyard whispers. The junkyard was quiet. Only the sound of wind passed through the broken machines and piles of old metal. Rusted pipes creaked. Empty fuel cans rolled on the ground. But in the middle of the silence, Callan heard something strange, a soft sound, like crying. He stopped. Callan had come to find scrap metal. He needed parts for an old water pump. The junkyard was huge. It was where all broken things went. No one lived here. No one was supposed to. But that sound, it was not metal. It was not wind. It was a child. He turned his head, trying to follow the noise. Step by step, he walked deeper into the junk. Tall walls of garbage surrounded him. Pieces of spaceships, crushed vehicles, broken lights, bent solar panels. He listened, again. Sniffle. There it was. Close now. Callan carefully stepped over a pile of wires and old metal sheets. Then, behind a rusty engine, he saw it. Small movement under a large bent steel plate. It looked like someone was hiding. Slowly he moved forward and crouched down. "Hello?" he said, voice calm. "I won't hurt you." The steel sheet shifted. A tiny face peeked out. It wasn't human. The child's skin was pale violet. Her eyes were big and silver. Her ears were long and pointed. Her cheeks were thin. She looked weak, dirty, and scared. Her small body was shaking. Behind her, another shape lay still. It was an adult, an alien woman, maybe her mother, lying on the ground, unmoving. The girl didn't speak. She just looked at him, breathing. Fast. Callan didn't move closer. He stayed down, keeping his hands where she could see them. "You don't have to be scared," he said gently. "Are you okay? Is she okay?" The girl finally whispered, "Please don't take our hiding place." Her voice was dry, full of fear. "I won't," Callan replied, "but you shouldn't be here. This place is dangerous." "We have nowhere else," the girl said. Her eyes filled with tears. "Please don't tell anyone." Callan looked at the woman behind her. She looked injured, her leg twisted, her arm bruised. She wasn't dead, but she wasn't awake either. The girl looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Their clothes were torn and covered in dust. "What's your name?" he asked. The girl hesitated, then said, "Sira." "And your mom?" "Her name is Ellerin." Callan nodded slowly. He stood up, looking around. He had never seen anyone living in the junkyard before. It was illegal. The city would remove them if they found out. But Callan didn't feel like calling anyone. He felt something else. Pity. No, not pity. Something deeper. A quiet anger. What kind of world let a child and her mother hide in trash like this? He reached into his bag and pulled out a protein bar. He placed it on the ground and slid it toward her. "Here," he said. "Eat this. I'll come back tomorrow." Sira stared at the food like it was gold. She looked at her mother, then quickly grabbed the bar. She didn't say thank you, but her eyes did. Callan didn't ask more questions. He didn't want to scare them. He turned and walked away, his heart heavy. That night he couldn't sleep. He thought about the little alien girl, how thin she looked, how afraid she was, how she clutched her mother's hand even when the woman couldn't move. He had seen suffering before. He had seen beggars and orphans, but this was different. These two weren't just poor. They were forgotten. He knew he couldn't just walk away. The next morning, Callan returned. This time he brought more food, water, a blanket, and something else. Hope. He didn't know why, but he felt like this meeting was going to change something. For Sira. For her mother. And maybe even for him. Rust and Ribs. Callan returned to the junkyard at sunrise. He carried a small bag filled with food, a bottle of clean water, and 2 blankets. The air smelled like burnt wires and old oil. As he stepped through the rusty maze, birds flew off the metal towers. Everything felt quiet again. But he wasn't just here for scrap today. He was here for them. He reached the same spot, behind the broken engine and the bent steel sheet. He crouched down and gently called, "Sira, it's me." For a moment there was no answer. Then the sheet moved. Sierra peeked out again. Her silver eyes were wide. She looked tired, but also hopeful. Her little hands clutched the metal as if afraid it would vanish. "You came back," she whispered. "I said I would." Callan replied with a soft smile. He slowly placed the bag in front of her. "I brought food and water." She grabbed the bottle first. Her fingers shook as she opened it and gave the first sip to her mother, who was awake now, but barely. The woman's lips were cracked. She blinked slowly as the water touched her tongue. "Easy," Callan said gently. "She needs to drink slowly." Sierra nodded. Then she sat down and opened the food, just a simple energy bar and a small sandwich. But the way she looked at it, it might as well have been a feast. She didn't eat fast. She tore the food into small pieces and made sure her mother ate first. Callan watched in silence. The girl was thin, too thin. Her bones showed under her pale skin. Her arms were just skin and bone, her dress hanging loose like it didn't fit. Her eyes had dark circles. She hadn't eaten properly in a long time. "I'm going to help you," Callan said. "But I need to understand, why are you two here? Why the junkyard?" Sierra looked down, her small fingers clenched. "People told us we were trash," she said quietly. "So we came here, where trash goes." Callan's chest tightened. "My father died in the war," she continued. "After that, no one wanted us. The city said we were too many, too weak, not useful." "They kicked you out?" Callan asked. She nodded. "We walked for days. Mama hurt her leg. We found this place. No one came here, so we stayed." Callan looked at Ellerin, the mother. Her eyes opened slowly, meeting his. "Are you a soldier?" she asked faintly. "Not anymore," Callan replied. "Just a mechanic now." "You should go," she whispered. "We are not your problem." Callan stood and looked around the junkyard. "I fix broken things," he said. "That's my job." He turned back to them. "And I think this place isn't what's broken. It's the world." Sierra stared at him, unsure what to say. Callan took a deep breath. "I'm going to build something for you. A roof, at least. Something better than this pile of scrap." The mother shook her head weakly. "You'll get in trouble." "I don't care," Callan said. "Let them come." Sierra blinked. "Why?" "Because," he said, "you remind me of someone I lost a long time ago." He didn't say more. He didn't need to. Sierra crawled forward and took his hand. It was cold, small, and covered in rust, but Callan held it like it was the most valuable thing in the universe. The story of the broken. That evening, Callan sat on an upside-down crate in the junkyard, just a few steps away from Sierra and her mother. The sky was turning purple. Distant stars began to appear. He had brought more water, a clean cloth, and some pain medicine for the mother. Sierra used the cloth to clean her mother's face with slow, careful hands. Aliengirl, Sierra's mother, was stronger now, but still weak. She leaned against a piece of broken hull, her breathing soft but steady. "Why are you helping us?" she asked again. Callan didn't answer right away. He was watching the stars. His voice came low. "Because someone once helped me. A long time ago, when I was broken too." Sierra looked at him curiously. "What happened to you?" He smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I lost people. I lost everything. I didn't think I mattered. But someone picked me up. Didn't ask questions. Just gave me a place to sit, a hot drink, and a reason to stay alive." He paused. "Now it's my turn." Aliengirl closed her eyes. "You're the first kind face we've seen in months." Then, she slowly began to speak. Her voice was soft and dry, but every word was full of pain. "We had a home once, a small house. My husband worked in a transport hub. After the war started, he was drafted. They promised he'd return." Sierra stared at the ground. Aliengirl continued. "He didn't." There was silence, just the wind rustling through pieces of old wiring. "After that," she said, "everything changed. Our kind We became unwanted. The city leaders said we were a burden. They told us to leave. But how can they do that? Callan asked. You live there. Alaren's eyes were tired. Because fear makes people cruel. And cruelty spreads like fire. Sira quietly said, no one would sell us food. We tried to sleep in old train stations. They kicked us out. We had to run. Her voice cracked. I thought Mama was going to die. Callan swallowed hard. He had seen pain before. But not like this. This wasn't war. This wasn't an attack. This was abandonment. Cold, slow, and silent. He stood up and looked around the junkyard. This place isn't a home. It's all we had, Alaren said. Metal doesn't judge. But it also doesn't protect, Callan said. And you both deserve more. Sira hugged her knees. I've never had a bed. Her words hit him like a punch in the chest. I'm going to build one, he said. You'll have a bed, a door, maybe even a light. Why? Sira asked. You don't even know us. Callan crouched down in front of her. I don't need to, he said. I just know you're worth more than rust and shadows. Suddenly, Sira crawled forward and wrapped her arms around him. She didn't say anything. She didn't cry. She just held him, and Callan, who had lived alone for many years, felt something strange rise in his chest. Maybe he wasn't broken anymore either. The first nail. The next morning, the junkyard echoed with a new sound. Clang, clink, crack. Sira peeked out from under the bent steel sheet and gasped. Callan was already at work. He wore gloves, a tool belt, and a big smile. Around him were pieces of scrap, metal plates, old door frames, shattered solar panels, even broken furniture. He had sorted them into piles. The little alien girl ran to him. What are you doing? She asked, eyes wide. Callan wiped sweat from his forehead. I'm building your home. Sira looked around. With trash? Callan laughed softly. Not trash. Materials. It's all about how you see it. He picked up a dented metal panel. This will be a wall. He showed her a broken door. This will be fixed. He tapped a flat solar panel. And this might give you light one day. Sira's eyes sparkled. She turned and ran to her mother. Mama, he's really doing it. He's building something. For us. Alaren sat up slowly. Her legs still hurt, but she smiled. Weak, but real. I see him, she whispered. I never thought anyone would care. By midday, the first wall was standing. It leaned a little, but it stood tall and proud, made from old hull panels and tied together with scavenged wire. Callan hammered nails he had pulled from broken crates. The sound of each strike echoed like a promise. Bang. 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 Sira brought him water. She sat nearby, watching every move like it was magic. Where? Did you learn this? She asked. I built shelters during the war, Callan replied. In the rain, in the snow, on planets with no sunlight. We built homes anywhere we had to survive. He paused and looked at her. And now I'm building this for you. But not everyone was happy. Later that evening, 2 men from the city walked by the edge of the junkyard. They were traitors. They saw Callan hammering beams into place and laughed. You building a castle out of garbage? One man shouted. Callan ignored him. The other sneered. You feeding aliens now? You'll catch a disease. Sira flinched behind a pile of parts. Her small hands trembled. Callan slowly stood up. He walked over to the edge and looked the men in. The eye. She's a child, he said firmly. And if helping a child makes me a fool, then I'm proud to be one. The men shook their heads and walked away, muttering insults. Callan turned to see Sira's eyes full of tears, but not because she was sad, because she was seen. That night, the first wall stayed up. The roof wasn't finished, and the floor was still dirt and rust. But it was more shelter than they'd had in months. Sira and her mother sat inside under the wall's shadow, huddled together under a blanket Callan had brought. The wind outside was cold, but the small space they had was warm. Callan sat nearby, fixing an old heater he found in a pile of junk. Sierra looked up at him. "Will it have windows?" Callan grinned. "What color do you want the curtains?" She giggled, and in that moment, surrounded by garbage and metal, with no money and no help, from the world a family was beginning. Rain, fire, and hope. The sky was dark. Heavy clouds rolled over the junkyard like smoke. The wind screamed through twisted towers of scrap. Old metal creaked. Dust flew into the air. Callan looked up from his work. He had just finished building the second wall of the tiny shelter. 2 old beams held it together. The roof was half complete, made from parts of a broken shuttle wing and solar panels. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Sierra stood nearby, holding a small toolbox. She wore a big shirt Callan had given her. It hung loosely on her small body, but she wore it like armor. "Will it be done before the rain comes?" she asked. "I hope so," Callan replied. But deep inside he knew it wouldn't be. The storm was too fast. Thunder growled in the sky. Then, the first drop fell. Rain came down like a flood. Cold, hard, angry. Callan tried to tie the roof tighter, but the wind fought back. One side of the metal sheet lifted, then tore off with a loud crash. The inside of the shelter was soaked. Sierra screamed as water poured down on them. He grabbed her hand. "Come on, get your mother!" Ellerin was lying on a small mat wrapped in blankets. Sierra rushed to her, shaking her gently. "Mama, get up, it's flooding." Ellerin tried to rise, but her leg gave way. She cried out in pain. Callan ran in, picked her up gently, and carried her out. The 3 of them rushed to the driest corner of the junkyard, a broken transport pod, long abandoned. Callan kicked the door open. It was dirty, cold, but dry. He laid Ellerin down and turned to Sierra. "Stay with her. I'll go get the heater and blankets." "You'll get wet," she cried. "I don't care," he said, and ran into the storm. Outside, the junkyard looked like a battlefield. Rain hammered the metal. Lightning flashed, the wind roared. Callan slipped, fell, and got back up again. His hands bled as he climbed over sharp edges. But he reached the shelter. It was broken. The roof had collapsed. Still, he found the heater, the tool bag, and one of the blankets. He stuffed everything into a crate and dragged it through the mud. When he returned, Sierra screamed with joy. "You're okay." "I told you." He smiled, dripping wet. "I don't give up easy." Later that night, the storm still howled outside, but inside the pod, it was quiet. The heater hummed faintly. Sierra sat beside her mother, wrapped in the blanket. Callan sat nearby, cleaning a deep cut on his arm. "Why did you come back?" Ellerin asked softly. "I promised you a home," he said. "A real one. Storm or not, I don't break promises." Sierra looked at him with tears in her eyes. "People left us before, they all walked away." Callan looked at her. His voice was low but strong. "I'm not people. I'm me." Then he reached into the crate and pulled out something unexpected. 3 small cans of soup. He opened one and handed it to Sierra. "It's warm," she whispered, surprised. "Found a working heat core under an old droid," Callan said. "Still had some life left in it." Sierra took the can to her mother, who drank it slowly. The warmth spread through their bodies like a soft fire. Ellerin let out a deep breath. "We're still here," she whispered. "We're still alive. And for the first time," she smiled. Outside, the storm raged, but inside that broken pod, surrounded by junk and mud and old dreams, something powerful was being built. Not just walls, not just shelter, but hope. The law arrives. The sun returned the next day. The storm had passed, but the ground was still wet. Pools of dirty water sparkled between the junk piles. Pieces of Callan's half-built shelter lay scattered, twisted and bent. But something else arrived. With the morning light. Trouble. A loud buzzing sound filled the sky. Callan looked up. A city drone. It hovered high above the junkyard, its red eyes scanning the area. Then it flew away. Fast. Callan's heart dropped. 3 hours later, a white truck rolled to a stop near the edge of the junkyard. Its doors slammed open and 2 men in silver uniforms stepped out. Their jackets bore the city's crest. Government men. One of them, tall and sharp-faced, held a clipboard. The other wore black gloves and looked around with disgust. They found Callan near the transport pod. He was helping Sierra clean the dirt from the heater. "You Callan Rourke?" the sharp-faced man asked. Callan stood. "Yes. You've been reported. Unauthorized structure, harboring non-registered species. You know the law." Callan didn't blink. "I know kindness." "This is a violation," the officer said. "These aliens are not protected by the city. You're offering illegal shelter. You will stop now, tear it down, and step away from them." Sierra froze. Ellerin clutched her daughter's arm. "They're not hurting anyone," Callan said, voice firm. "That doesn't matter." Callan stepped in front of the pod door. "It does to me." The black-gloved man raised a scanner. "You'll be fined. Maybe jailed." "Fine," Callan said. "Do what you have to. But I'm not leaving them." The men looked at each other, annoyed. "We'll be back," the officer said, "with enforcement." They turned and walked away. Sierra stepped out slowly, her small hands shaking. "Are they going to take us?" Callan knelt down. "Not while I'm here." That night, tension hung heavy in the air. Sierra didn't speak much. She just sat beside her mother, holding her hand tightly. Ellerin stared at the ceiling of the pod, eyes lost in thought. Callan stayed up, fixing the roof again under the moonlight. Every nail he hammered was louder than the last, not from the tool, but from the fight building in his chest. The next morning, something surprising happened. Callan returned from gathering more scrap and stopped in his tracks. There were people near the pod. 5 of them, not officers, not government workers, locals, old men, a woman with a baby, 2 teenagers with toolkits. One man stepped forward. He had a metal leg and a thick gray beard. "You helped me once," he told Callan. "Fixed my fence for free. Remember?" Callan nodded slowly. The man smiled. "Well, now we help you." He raised a metal beam to his shoulder. "Let's finish this shelter before the city comes back." Sierra watched with wide eyes. Strangers, humans, were working, helping, smiling. Someone gave her a cup of tea. Someone else gave Ellerin a clean scarf. And for the first time since her father died, Sierra didn't feel invisible. She felt like part of the world again. Scrap turns to shelter hammers echoed through the junkyard. Clink, tap, slam. But this time it wasn't just Callan. Now many hands worked beside him. A small army of locals, people from the outer zones, welders, an old farmer, even a quiet boy, who couldn't speak but handed out nails with care. Together they built. Sierra stood at the edge of the half-finished shelter, staring at it like it was a dream. The walls were higher now. The roof was almost done. One side had a window, made from a polished screen that reflected the sky. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Callan handed her a small paintbrush. "Want to help paint the door?" She looked up at him, surprised. "I've never painted anything." "First time for everything," he said with a smile. She dipped the brush into blue paint and slowly dragged it across the metal. Her hands trembled at first, but then she smiled. It wasn't just color. It was proof. Later that day, a large vehicle appeared at the junkyard entrance again. The silver-uniformed officers returned, with backup. 3 enforcement bots hovered behind them, ready to destroy the structure. The lead officer looked smug. "I warned you," he said. "This is government property. That shelter must come down." But this time, Callan didn't stand alone. The gray-bearded man stepped forward. "You'll have to tear down our work too." The woman with the baby nodded. "That girl calls me auntie now." One by one, the locals stepped between the shelter and the enforcers, a living wall of resistance. "These people belong," Callan said. And if you want to tear this down, you'll have to tear all of us down with it. The officer hesitated. His scanner beeped, then his comm link buzzed in his ear. He paused, listened, then looked annoyed. He turned around. Let's go. The bots followed. No words, no arrests, just retreat. When they left, everyone stood silent. Then, cheers broke out. Sierra laughed and clapped her hands. Ellerin wept, her face buried in her hands. The junkyard echoed with joy. Real, raw joy. Callan knelt beside Sierra and held out something. A small sign, made from scrap wood. Letters carved by hand. Home. Want to hang it? He asked. Sierra took it carefully and nailed it above the door. The crowd clapped. From broken machines and rusted steel, a home had risen. Not just a shelter, but a place filled with warmth, kindness, and hope. That night, stars lit the sky. Inside the shelter, the heater hummed softly. Blankets were warm. Sierra curled up beside her mother, holding a small toy someone had given her. Callan sat outside on a crate staring at the stars. Ellerin stepped out and sat beside him. Her voice was soft. You gave us life again. Callan shook his head. You already had life. I just reminded the world to see it. She smiled, tears in her eyes. You're more than just a man who fixes broken things. He looked at her. You fix broken hearts too. In the heart of a forgotten junkyard under a sky full of stars, a new family found their place, not made of blood, but made of choice, made of scrap and love. And nothing, no law, no storm, no silence, could take that away. The end.